Predator 3, Brandon Noel Keith, August 17, 2015. Page 1. Natalie was a security guard at a top-secret research facility just outside New York City. 5'9" with dark red hair. Her friends, Dirk and Bale, were also security guards there. The three hung out daily, on and off the clock. It was an easy job most of the time, but the looming promise of deadly intrusion was always present, so the three were still ready to switch in an instant. This facility held alien technology, to which all associates there were well aware of. The biggest of secrets not withheld from anyone under contract. Known as Yacha, the alien hunter race, humanoids with mandibles and dreadlocks, generally much taller and bigger than humans. It's been a long time since anyone tried to steal the alien weaponry stored in the underground lower levels, and interested parties were taken care of naturally. Scientists overlooking a spacecraft in the radar room were sure their spy tactics had gone unnoticed by the aliens, but they were dead wrong. A band of Yacha were already on their way. A smaller spacecraft landed in the surrounding jungle, within the walls surrounding the facility property. It was cloaked, and so were the three Yacha that left the ship. One male guard was walking about peacefully, and perhaps a little bored. He was hoisted up with little time to scream before being skinned and hung upside down from a tree. The three Yacha made their way to the facility entrance. They made their way inside with ease, but not before a female guard had her backbone and skull ripped out. Scientists in the radar room turned to see the cloaked Yacha trio charge them, wrist blades out. The scientists' spies were cut to pieces. The radar machine was smashed as well. The aliens obviously didn't like being spied on. Natalie, Dirk, and Belle were alerted and on their way. They arrived in the radar room to survey their damage. And it was Natalie who deduced the party responsible. It was the Yacha, and she even deduced the reason. It was not only to thwart their spying activities, but to collect what belonged to them. In the lowest level, the cloaked Yacha arrived before their stolen masks and other various weaponry. The glass between them shattered, the property recovered. Then Natalie, Dirk, and Bale arrived with small radar devices. The Yacha positions are given away. The three security guards open fire. The aliens duck for cover and fire back briefly. The humans now duck for cover. When the humans fire back, the Yacha have had enough. A net gun is raised and Bale is trapped within the net and flies across the room. He's shocked and can't break free. Dirk can't believe it, but then is struck in the side with a spear. He lets out a scream. Then Natalie has her gun smacked out of her hands. She gasps as she's picked up by the throat. The alien uncloaks. She's faced a mask with the creature. A long stare between the two as the remaining two collect Dirk and Bale. Now the Yacha are taking the three security guards back to the ship. The research facility is left in flames. The ship closes up and takes off, up in the air, and out into space. Page 2. The smaller spacecraft is moving further and further away from Earth. Inside, the Yacha are walking among the red-lit smoke, out of mask and out of sight. Down a hall and into a small room with a window. The room has a bench on each side. Bale on one bench, Natalie next to Dirk on the other. They whisper amongst themselves, curious as to why they've been kept alive. Dirk's wound is too bad to hope for anything good. Natalie is a comfort sight, but the pain is too unbearable. Dirk passes out. Bale sighs. Natalie discusses Dirk's chances of survival with Bale. She wonders if she could speak with the aliens about helping him. She gets up and walks out. Bale leans to the window. He stares at the stars in wonder. Natalie heads down the hall with caution. She turns into a room and has a look around. Soon enough, her sights are upon a wall of trophies. Various alien creature skulls, and even a human skull. Natalie looks disgusted by this, but she's too intrigued to look away. Suddenly, the very same masked Yacha that held her by the throat shows up behind her. She spins around. Natalie says hello, and she pauses in very mild fear, but mostly in curiosity. Then she snaps out of it and motions the Yacha to follow her. He does, right back down the hall to the room with a view. Bale turns to them as they enter. He shakes his head a few times. Natalie's eyes fill with tears. Dirk has died. Some time passes. The ship Mundaka docks with Jagda Ja Atoll, a yacha party barge of sorts. The yacha three leave with Bale and Natalie following. Bale is holding her as she weeps in sorrow for Dirk. Bale can't help but break free from his own, more hidden sorrow, to take in the sights. High-rise ceiling with walkways, and many other yacha all about. Some are keeping close eyes on the humans. The friendliest yacha, Natalie's guard of sorts, waves them over. Bale and Natalie move past the less familiar yacha to their party. They are offered an unknown drink. Bale takes the first sip. He confirms its content, water. Natalie now has a drink, but then an unfamiliar yacha picks a fight with Bale, who's suddenly quivering. The guard yacha accepts the challenge, saving Bale from certain death. Natalie and Bale watch as the guard yacha and challengers circle one another. Their wrist blades shoot out, and they lunge at one another. The challenger is flipped over and has his backside slashed. He lets out a scream before spinning around and tackling the guard to the ground. Natalie looks as if she's about to help him when Bale holds her back. The guard pushes the challenger off of him. He jumps up and jumps up higher, out of the way of the challenger, and his wrist blades slicing. Not his challenge, but the air. Other yacha in the crowd laugh at this when the challenger looks up to see the guard dropping down. His feet are planted directly on the challenger's head. The challenger is knocked out, cold. Natalie and Bale look on. As the crowd cheers, the guard reaches down and cuts the challenger's head off with his wrist blades. He holds it up high, and the crowd cheers louder now. Bale vomits, and Natalie seems to be a little lightheaded. The victorious guard yacha looks over his trophy. Page 3. Moments later, Natalie and Bale are confronted by a woman. She looks very similar to Natalie, and as soon as the woman smiles, Natalie knows it's her mother. They embrace and the tears flow once more, but soon stop as Natalie is now wanting to know the story. In short, her mother showed great promise as a hunter. She proved herself, and left to explore the galaxy for worthy prey with the predators. The constant inner urge for her only child to join her one day has at long last been accomplished. And the guard predator that's been so close to her these past few hours was just as close to Natalie for the years prior per her mother, Saras' request. An unseen guardian. Now the periodical haunting ghost encounters all throughout Nat's life finally made sense. With no further ado, Natalie and her mother Sarah join Bale and the trio of predators and return to their ship. They depart the Jagda Ja Atoll party barge and reboard the Mundaka. Back in the room with the view, Dirk is no longer there. His corpse has been dealt with, and the humans take a seat. A conversation of the future takes place. The unknown lifestyle far from Earth and among largely unknown aliens. It was the chance of a lifetime. A passing mention of Sarah's ex-husband, Natalie's father, his death 3 years ago, was obviously news to Sarah, who's been gone since Natalie was 10. Sometime later, Natalie and Bale awaken to Sarah entering the room. She requests their attendance elsewhere, and they oblige. Natalie, Sarah, and Bale enter the control room, where the two predator pilots control the Mundaka, and the guard predator stands by. The six overlook the oncoming planet. Natalie and Bale look on in wonder once more. Sarah welcomes them to one of the many home planets of this alien race. Soon enough, the ship is crossing overhead the vast landscapes, desert and jungle and mountains, but no real structures seen, only another passing Mundaka in the distance. Other alien creatures are seen, big spiky-head, spiky-tailed beasts roaming the jungle as their ship is finally slowing down. Their ship lands atop a pyramid. The six get out. Sarah is gently guiding the onlooking curious pair from the tall tree view into the pyramid. Inside the pyramid, it is well lit. Sarah guides them as two of the three predators lead them, the guardian predators tacking behind. Sarah shows Bale his room, complete with bed, chair, and table, though of vastly different design than anything he's ever seen before. He has a seat on the bed. It's comfortable enough. Sarah now shows Natalie to her room. Down the hall, Bale's room door slides shut. The guardian predator stands by as mother and daughter enter the room. This door slides shut. Sarah and Natalie have a seat on the edge of the bed and discuss their very different lifestyles. Natalie is, however, grateful for the homely comforts. Sarah's suspicion that Natalie would suit the hunter's life is met with a smile. Natalie does in fact love the idea. But when she asks her mother if she ever had to hunt humans, Sarah leaves without another word. Surely that itself was disturbing. Page 4. At sunset, Belle is beside the guardian predator, crouched under trees as Natalie and Sarah approach in yacha garb. Belle can't help but raise his eyebrows, for Natalie is looking sexy in the neck mesh and armor plates. Natalie is armed with a spear gun, plasma pistol, and wrist blades. She crouches between the guardian predator and her mother. When the guardian cloaks, Sarah does too. Belle wants to know what is going on. Sarah informs him that it's their first hunt, and just then does a big, spiky, boarish alien beast step into sight. Natalie holds up the spear gun and aims. Belle just watches. She follows the beast with her eyes, keeping the spear gun trained on it. Then she fires. A bundled collection of darts shoot out and cut through the beast's left eye and into its brain. It drops dead. Sarah congratulates her. Natalie hands the spear gun to Belle and asks why he is in the yacha garb. He simply doesn't wish to wear it, but means no disrespect. Now Belle moves on out, with Natalie following, still in her crouched position. The cloaked pair follow too. Just then, does a smart disc fly through the air and cut Belle in half at the waist. The guardian roars in anger as Natalie gasps in horror. Belle drops dead. Cloaked Sarah grabs her daughter's right arm and runs back towards the pyramid. She informs Nat that it's a band of bad blood yacha, dishonorable clan outcasts. The guardian cycles through his vision selection to uncover the 3 cloaked outcasts, young bastards too. Plasma shots via plasma casters from the 3 as the guardian leaps out of the way. High in the tall tree, he climbs as the plasma keeps striking. Closer and closer. Then a branch he grabs snaps, and the guardian falls back to the ground below. The 4 uncloak. The guardian jumps to his feet and turns to one of the bad bloods tackling him up against a tree. The guardian is slugged in the ribs repeatedly, but then he returns the favor by slowly twisting the bad blood's head right around. This one drops dead, but 2 still remain. The dead one is pushed aside, and the guardian hunches slightly, with its arms out, roaring and ready. We return to Sarah still guiding Natalie. A 4th bad blood jumps in the way of them. Sarah grabs Natalie's plasma pistol. Sarah aims and fires as the bad blood's wrist blades shoot out. One single shot impacts against this one's chest and spreads him apart most completely. Sarah continues with Natalie right over the gooey mess remains. Back to the guardian clashing wrist blades with the other 2. Clank after clank. The guardian is fighting fiercely, though outnumbered. Then one is gutted rather quickly and drops dead. The guardian doesn't have time to enjoy this victory, as the last remaining bad blood backhands him into a spin around. Then he's kicked in the chest and slams back into another tree. The guardian pulls out a remote bomb. The bad blood leaps up to evade it, but the guardian throws it right at him, in air, and it explodes upon impact. The bad blood is blown to smithereens. Back to the pyramid as Sarah closes the door behind Natalie. They both rush into an open room where 4 other yacha stand by. She informs them in their language what's up. Page 5. The guardian predator leaps down from the Mundaka above, into this pit of near darkness. Down comes one last bad blood that followed him. It has its own net gun and fires. The guardian is flung back against the wall, trapped in the net. Now this bad blood advances with its wrist blades out, when suddenly the bad blood is split in half from crotch to head by a yacha long blade. Rather, a sword. The lights undim now. A fellow yacha cuts the net, and the guardian is freed. Sarah and Natalie step out to see the one that wields the sword. It's a female yacha donning a silver mask and armor plates, as well as the traditional net mesh. The female predator begins to speak. Sarah relays the message to Natalie, a wish for vengeance on this intrusion. They will all band together to seek out any lingering bad bloods and destroy them wherever they may hide on this side of the planet. A bit later, Natalie's in her room. She's getting ready to join them when Sarah enters. She seems to think her daughter isn't prepared for this, but Natalie insists, for Belle was her friend. The guardian and the female yacha are joined by Sarah, Natalie, and 5 other male yacha. All cloak themselves, including Natalie this time. They move away from the pyramid and into the deep jungle. Through the jungle and across the desert, as night has officially fallen. Now the group of 9 are upon a hovering craft. Inside this craft, Sarah and Natalie are sitting quietly. They are thinking things over. The hovering craft soon comes upon a small batch of huts. Yacha children peek out from their homes. Natalie is seen looking out the window with her mother. Sarah informs Natalie that the children aren't given much free time. It's as immediately as they can grasp basic concepts of life that they are taught in the ways of their kind. Born hunters, not without honor, at least for those wishing to remain in good standing with the bigger, better part of the population. Natalie watches as her brother and sister, only 4 feet tall, play catch with a strange alien skull. Thoughts of regret enter Natalie's mind, but are soon forgotten. She's enjoying this. Sarah questions Natalie further. Perhaps they could return to Earth one day with a great piece of fiction, with knowledge so deep. An entire world of so-called fantasy about the Yacha alien race could presumably rake in millions of dollars for both of them. That was Sarah's idea, but Natalie wonders if they could manage telling the truth, to bring all the proof required and then some that life beyond Earth exists. But could the human race mentally handle it? Sarah's not so sure, and that doubt brings Natalie's hopes down too. The hovering craft comes to a stop. The group of 9 exit. They move past and between a few huts and climb a steep hill, up to the top, where a cavern is waiting for them. Into the cavern, not for rest, but for thorough search. The female predator seems to think some of the very bad bloods they're looking for reside here, and how right she was. 4 bad bloods, seriously ill-prepared, are found and slaughtered instantly. The female kills one with her sword, while the others are killed out of. Page 6. Outside the cave and atop this big rock hill, 2 of the Yacha clan are firing their shoulder-mounted plasma casters at a band of bad bloods who are now out of hiding. The bad bloods fire back with their own plasma casters. Unfortunately, these 2 are blown apart, having killed just one of their enemies. The group of 9 is now a group of 7. The guardian predator chucks his spear. One of the band of 4 are impaled through the chest. Natalie aims her spear gun and spears down 2 more, whereas the remaining 2 are torn limb from limb by bare hands by 2 of the 3 Yachas from the clan. Onward upon and inside the hovering landcraft, across more desert into a second, more swamp-like jungle. A giant flying insect, twice the size of an average Yacha, comes soaring down. It's attempting to sting anyone it might. However, Natalie aims her plasma pistol. One shot sends it in all different directions, in all different tiny little pieces. The hovercraft stops, and the 7 hop off and out. They cross the knee-high swamp water slowly. The clan of 7 now approach a campsite, littered with Yacha skulls. Then the clan is ambushed by bad bloods. The female predator is netted. Sarah cuts her free via wrist blades. Another of the clan turns to a tree collapsing upon him. His dying scream echoes. Then the guardian predator wastes the bad blood on the fallen tree via plasma caster. He drops back deceased, his chest all messed up and wide open, with glowing yellow blood spraying out of the wound. Another bad blood rips open a Yacha's backside with its own spear, and its scream echoes even louder. It's a clan of 5 now. Sarah drives her wrist blades into another bad blood's throat. When she pulls the blades away, the bad blood drops dead. Natalie spear guns another bad to its doom. But now the spear gun is empty. She drops it and pulls her plasma pistol. She dives out of the way of a plasma caster shot from above in the trees. She in turn aims up and fires a few times. This bad blood screams in agony as it falls to its certain death below. Splat. A smart disc comes flying by and decapitates the other Yacha in the clan. The female Yacha leaps high into the air, hanging to one tree. She leaps again and hangs to another. Then she jumps one final time and cuts the smart disc tosser in half at the waist. Both pieces drop. Then she drops too, safely. The female, the guardian, Sarah, and Natalie are all that remain. The swamp fight seems to be over now. They now return to the hovercraft. Break time as Natalie watches as the silver-armored female is resting in deep thought herself. Natalie wants to know if these past events has took its toll on her. Sarah, however, tells her that all deaths past were honorable and most welcome by all the Yacha. This brings a smile to Natalie's face, as she's finally understanding the ways of the alien race. But then a last remaining bad blood from the swamps chucks its own spear right through Sarah's back. Nat gasps in horror. The Guardian spins around and throws one of its remote bombs. It blows the bad blood's face apart, the front side of its head. Page 7. The hovercraft returns to the pyramid. The Guardian Predator carries Saras' corpse. The female Predator stands by as Natalie is instructing other Yacha left behind via hand signs to dig a hole 6 feet deep. They do. Natalie instructs the Guardian to gently place her mother in the hole. He does. Now the Yacha begin burying Sarah. Natalie salutes, standing upright. The Guardian and the female mimic this, with a salute of their own. A month passes. Natalie has learned more in the ways of the Yacha, namely, how to communicate with them more efficiently. Their language not hard to learn for one who has no choice, but also desperate too, for a better life in the vein of what her mother wanted. Natalie hunts most days and nights with the Guardian Predator. They mostly keep close to the pyramid, but other times head out on the hovercraft. Natalie dines on the meat of that which she hunts, as do the Yacha. Nat joins the Guardian at least once a day to compare trophy walls. She even teaches them to shake her hand, and they do now. He speaks the word friend in reference to her. Another night, the Guardian and the female get close. Natalie's passed out and unaware of what's happening 10 feet from her. The next morning, Natalie boards the Mundaka with the Guardian and the female. The ship takes off. On the ship, Natalie is cleaning her weapons. The Guardian is seated across from the female, who's by a window. Out the window are red structures, stars, and 3 full moons. The Guardian begins cleaning his hunting equipment as well. The female removes her mask. Upon seeing this, the Guardian does as well. Natalie remembers the saying, "Before a lady," and smiles. The female appears to now be sleeping. Natalie speaks to the Guardian in its own language. She asks if a trip to Earth is indeed in the near future. The Guardian confirms this and assures her it won't be long. Suddenly, scratching sounds are heard around the corner. Natalie and the Guardian are now on their guard. Their wrist blades shoot out and they head around the corner, down a hall now, and towards the next room. A bad blood stowaway turns. The Guardian growls and charges. The two slam wrist blades together over and over again. The Guardian is smacked away, for this bad blood is just a bit bigger and stronger. Natalie charges now with the same tactic. Wrist blade connections repeated, but she's kicked in the gut and hunches over, immediately spitting blood out of her mouth. She looks up and is punched in the face. She falls over and rolls away. She tries to crawl away but is kicked in the ribs. She hits the floor and rolls back to her backside. The wrist blades come down and Natalie is struggling to keep it from slicing her with her own pair. It's a losing struggle, but then the Guardian returns to stab the bad blood in the side. Its glowing yellow blood spills out onto the floor and the bad blood is screaming, for the blades are deep. Natalie jabs her right fist into the bad blood's mouth, and her blades cut through the back of his neck. This bad blood falls over dead. The Guardian helps Natalie to her feet now. They return to the female down the hall, who's just obliviously yawning. Page 8. The Mundaka approaches Earth. Natalie can be seen taking in the sight by the window. She looks back over her shoulder at nothing in particular for a moment, as if worrying about something. The ship lands in Manhattan, somewhere in Central Park. It's nighttime now. Natalie and the Guardian exit, leaving the female behind. They are cloaked and hiding in the treetops. Passerbyers are unaware of the threat that looms above. Natalie speaks Yacha to the Guardian, but it's unclear what is said. They move along unseen, but one pedestrian citizen turns, having heard something strange up above. He looks on as his leashed chocolate lab is barking. This man carries on. Times Square, in an alleyway, the Guardian pulls one punk up off the ground just as he robbed a poor woman. The woman runs off screaming. On the rooftop, the Guardian skins this punk. Natalie is doing the same to his partner. Police officers are arresting some hooligans at the dock. Natalie and the Guardian watch with plasma casters. Targets trained on them. A great view of the Statue of Liberty is before them. The police walk away with their prisoners, but nothing becomes of them in terms of the cloaked hunters. Following a speeding car now as it's being chased by a squad car. The Guardian lands on the roof, crushing it. Onlookers gawk as the thug driver is ripped out of his seat. The Guardian leaps away with his latest trophy and the thug's car goes smashing into a fire hydrant. A tall spray of water erupts. Natalie in an alleyway, she uncloaks before a goon beating up an old man for his wallet. The goon drops the old man and turns to face Natalie, who's behind a yacha mask. The goon asks if Natalie is a stripper. Natalie spears the goon through the crotch. His screams are loud, and the old man crawls away. Natalie is atop another building. She watches as the Guardian has a pile of bodies, 2 of which are cops. Natalie suddenly feels bad, but she understands from the alien's perspective. Still, she is human. She feels sick. She slinks down and looks as if she's going to throw up. Her heart is telling her this is wrong. The Guardian asks her what the problem is. Natalie explains the idea that not all of these victims were worthy per her human nature, but is quick to further explain by yacha code that he did nothing wrong. The Guardian is now curious to know whether Natalie has second thoughts about this lifestyle, and that her mother once had these delusions. Natalie asks how her mother got through it. The Guardian explains that time changes things. Sarah had went through so many years with this very same life routine. Her old life was no longer relevant, with the exception of her feelings for her daughter. That remained constant, while the entirety of her nature was changed, point being, enough time spent doing something, an appreciation for it is granted. And at that point, it would be just as difficult to return to her former lifestyle. Natalie is amazed at this insight, and she promises never to question her feelings again in this way. Predator 3, Brandon Noel Keith. Based on the 2005-2007 script by B&K, August 17, 2015. The end. Predator 3, Part 2, Brandon Noel Keith, August 19, 2015. Page 1. 2 days later, and beneath the city, in the Manhattan sewer system, Natalie and the Guardian Predator are resting from their latest hunt, surrounded by the corpses of well-armed gang members. Together they have skinned and collected from the carcasses. A break in the action. Natalie listens to the Guardian as he explains the best way to go about cleaning up, but all she can think about is the stench. The Guardian just laughs at her. Natalie is anxious to get her mind off the smell, and asks curiously about how he came into her mother Sarah's life. Natalie lies back as he proceeds to tell her the 15-year-old tale. 15 years earlier. A 2-story home on the outskirts of the city. Sarah Victoria is leaving her sleeping husband Charles behind. She kisses her 10-year-old daughter on the forehead. She leaves with her friend Stacy to a small bar nearby. At the bar, a few hours later, Stacy comes back from the tiny dance floor, drunken far more than Sarah, who's looking sorrowful. When Stacy asks her what her problem is, Sarah tells her. It seems she believes her husband Charles is no longer interested in her. Stacy butts in to claim that Sarah's beautiful and he's lucky to have her. Now Sarah explains she believes Charles might be cheating on her. This brings tears to her eyes, but Stacy is stronger now, angry in fact, ready to defend Sarah from any chance she might be telling the truth. But the option to question her potentially unfaithful husband by any physical means necessary is discounted, for Sarah still loves him. Sarah and Stacy were best friends since childhood. Together they joined a top-secret research facility, which had just come into contact with alien life, a caged yacha in the lowest level of the facility. Sarah and Stacy's jobs were that of security guards. They alone thwarted a rival rogue company's agents from obtaining the specimen. But as tough as they were, this seemingly imaginary dilemma of unfaithfulness had struck Sarah's heart too deeply. She had been coming to the bar for far too long. She was more of a drunk now than a badass, and her company was threatening to fire her. Outside the bar, screams from an 8-strong biker gang. The barhouse occupants rush out to plasma shots firing upon handgun-armed bikers, who are outmatched by a pair of unseen assailants. 8 down to 4 rather quickly. The remaining 4 hop on their bikes, but don't get far as they fire back, hitting only an onlooking drunkard. A fatal shot. They're torn to pieces. The other drunkards leave in a hurry, but Sarah and Stacy whip out their handguns, stowed away. They know the cloaked monsters. One had come to rescue the other from the facility. They fire upon the aliens, their cloaks undone. One of them strikes at Stacy, cutting her abdomen deep and ripping her head off. Her gun drops. Sarah's backhanded by the same alien. The other hunter is standing by, the very same one that came to rescue the more aggressive one. Sarah evades his stomping and empties her pistol into the alien's chest. She climbs atop him and jams her gun into one of the wounds. She starts prying the wound open further, so much that this hunter can't survive, and then Sarah rushes off. Page 2. On the run across a grass field, lit only by the full moon above, the other Yacha is on her trail, and before she knows it, he's directly in front of her. Sarah drops to her knees, too tired to run anymore. The predator approaches her slowly. He picks her up to her feet carefully. Sarah doesn't know what to think, but then he guides her away. In a nearby Mundaka spacecraft, Sarah is being marked on her forehead, branded an honorable pursuit, and no longer prey. It didn't take long for the situation at hand to click in her head. The moment she killed the Yacha, she was worthy to hunt with the clan. Sarah was never mother material. She loved her daughter very much, but the urge to live a life for herself was too strong. Violence was in her blood, as both her father and mother before her were hardened soldiers of war that died together in battle. It seemed Sarah would be the last in the bloodline to carry such violent ambitions. Her daughter was 10 and had plenty of time to get over the loss of her mom. The choice was made now. Sarah would leave Earth to hunt with the aliens. Back to present. Natalie realizes now that the same predator that turned her unblooded mother into a blooded member of the clan was the very same one that sat in front of her. The Guardian continued with the story. For 15 years, Sarah was gaining the expertise she needed, and how she was enjoying this new life so very much, hunting with her pack all across the galaxy. At first the Guardian was her only friend. Others respected her status earned. But Sarah was not one of them completely. Even unblooded Yacha were more respected. The beginning of a bad blood uprising started a year into her new life. The Guardian protected her life more than once. Natalie smiles with a tear rolling down her cheek. More respect for the Guardian entering her heart. But that wasn't all. Sarah had been protecting his life just the same. Over the many passing years, Sarah was periodically explaining how much she missed her daughter. At first she was ultimately ignored. So much so, in fact, Sarah eventually gave up the idea of a return to Earth to see little Natalie. The Guardian was convinced that he would look after Natalie, while still hunting in the populated areas all about Natalie's neighborhood. Then Natalie's 25th birthday arrived. Soon after, the attack on the spying facility. Due to the Guardian's previous evaluation, Natalie was selected to join the Yacha and reunite with her mother. Natalie and the Guardian were now ready to leave the sewer system, but it was now that a small army of armed rogue agents who had been tracking them arrived. Natalie and the Guardian cloaked. They observed the agents carefully. Then they began spooking them. Shots aplenty, but no impact whatsoever. The Guardian's plasma caster wastes 2 agents. Natalie's plasma pistol wastes another. Then she pulls out her trusted spear, also known as a compass stick. She impales an agent through the chest. The Guardian slices another agent's throat by her wrist blades. Page 3. The rogue agents are chasing down Natalie and the Guardian. With the aid of special radar equipment, the cloaking ability is all for naught. The fight is then over once the agents use stun bombs to drop the odd couple. Closing over them, the pair pass out. Elsewhere, about 24 hours later, Natalie awakens. She's behind a force field of light, her feet and hands encased in a metal shell lock. She's spread out like a starfish, and across the hall, behind another force field, she can see the Guardian is too. But he's still out of it. Now a male scientist walks down the hallway. He stops in front of her and cocks his head to the right of it. It's a strange sight for him, the woman in league with the alien. They're even dressed alike. The scientist wants to know who she is, and what exactly she was doing, and what exactly she has been doing with this alien menace. Natalie says nothing. She stares at him blankly, perhaps a little angrily. He sighs, walking away. She lowers her head, proud and keeping silent. Aboard the Mundaka in Central Park, the female predator is awakening from another nap. She is fully rested now. She approaches a control panel and starts placing her fingertips against the surface of the panel. A holographic screen presents itself. She's viewing Natalie through the biomask helmet of the Guardian. The female presses down on one of the buttons. The recording is rewound from live footage to far back enough so that she can find out just where her clan members are. The female darts away and collects what she will for her parent rescue. We return to the Rogue's research facility, buried deep underground. The head scientist that unsuccessfully questioned Natalie Victoria is among other scientists and rogue agents. These men and women work against the government, for the betterment of enemy nations across the globe. Like a cockroach is this organization in one way, and in another, like poison. The head scientist knows much about the Yacha, and is sure to learn more soon enough. He's bent on it. The head scientist approaches the door, and enters a new hallway, with a new pair of force fields on each side. On one side is the skeletal remains of a dead Yacha, and on the other is the other living specimen in their care. The head scientist injects doses of weakening liquid via robotic arms that detach from the walls. The living prisoner Yacha is feeling the effects immediately. Then the force field disappears and the scientist steps up. The hand and feet locks unlock. 2 rogue agents stand by with shotguns. The head scientist locks a neck brace around the alien prisoner's neck. A metal leash attached, and the prisoner is led down the hall. The 4 enter the testing laboratory. The head scientist demands this one interact with the other, but then it comes alive, tossing the leader into a control panel. He's electrocuted to death. The prisoner predator roars angrily. The other scientists and rogue agents are tossed around. Shotgun blasts destroy the force field generator and locking machine. The prisoner is slightly wounded, but ends their lives so very quickly nevertheless. Page 4. Natalie is assisting the Guardian down the hall. They're both free now. Soon they enter the testing lab, to find it a mess, bodies left mutilated. A moment later, Natalie is led by her Guardian through a sliding door and upon a catwalk. To their right is a Mundaka spacecraft. The prisoner predator is turning away from atop it, to face him down. He leaps from his ship and onto the catwalk. He's clearly ready to destroy them. When the Guardian asks the prisoner what he wants, he demands to know how to get his ship out of this place. The Guardian then asks Natalie. Natalie returns to the testing lab, with the 2 Yacha right behind her. She notices that this place isn't so different from the facility she recently worked for. She presses a number of buttons. Bingo, she states. The trio return to the ship room to see that the ceiling is opening up. A view of the sky so very high above beyond the wide tunnel. Bingo, the Guardian mimics. Now, as the 3 are about to board, the prisoner turns on them. Natalie is swatted away. The Guardian is slugged in the gut. The prisoner laughs it up. The prisoner kicks the Guardian off the catwalk. He lands hard on the lower floor. The prisoner leaps down and plants both feet into the Guardian. A roar of pain later, and the Guardian is being lifted up by his throat. The Guardian's wrist blades shoot out. The prisoner's left side dreadlocks are chopped. It's a clear warning, but then the prisoner returns by grabbing the right arm and stabbing the Guardian in the stomach with his own blades. Another scream of pain, the Guardian is thrown aside. As the prisoner approaches his ship, the sound of Natalie whistling for his attention. He turns to see her, and her spear gun aimed at him. Natalie fires. The prisoner hits the ground backside first, having been struck with a collection of darts. The Guardian rips his blades out of his stomach. The luminescent green blood spills out. He watches as the prisoner gets up, only to be hit again in the left leg by Natalie's spear gun, and it's now being used as a bat. Again and again, the prisoner is being beaten to death with it. But then it's snatched away. Natalie steps back. She's then punched across the face with the left fist of the prisoner. Then she's swatted across the right side of the face with her own spear gun. Grunts of pain as the Guardian gets to his feet. He leaps across the buffet floor and tackles the prisoner into a roll. He's just as quickly kicked off, but he lands on his feet as the prisoner jumps to his. The prisoner pulls his whip and swings it the Guardian's way. The Guardian evades it with ease, then takes hold and pulls the prisoner his way. The prisoner is kneed in the gut and elbowed in the back. The prisoner finds himself on all fours. The whip is thrown to the side. The Guardian picks the prisoner up and begins to smack him around, teaching him a lesson as it were. Then the wrist blades dig into the prisoner's side. Luminescent green blood spills out of not only the wound, but the mouth. The prisoner spits upon the Guardian's biomask. before headbutting him. The Guardian stumbles back. Natalie stands there with a whip, and she whips a hole in the fucker's chest, and once more across the face. Page 5. The prisoner predator drops dead. Natalie rushes to her Guardian. She is helping him up when the female of their clan uncloaks herself. Natalie turns to see her approaching. Inside the prisoner's Mundaka, the female is treating the Guardian's wounds, an array of alien medical equipment. Screams of pain from her Guardian, but he's soon calmed and healed. It's his time to rest now, but he watches the female predator bestow the mark of honor upon Natalie's forehead, the same her mother got from the Guardian 15 years ago. Natalie knew what this meant immediately, and understood she was finally one of them. She earned it, and was no longer under special treatment because of her dead mother's status. Outside the Mundaka, the female predator sets the self-destruct charge on the dead prisoner's arm bracer. We return to Central Park now. The 3 cloaked clan members enter their Mundaka. A moment later, it's departing into the sky. Just as a mighty explosion underground occurs, a strong earthquake is taking place. The Mundaka is leaving the city and the planet, but not before Natalie witnesses nearby buildings falling into a giant sinkhole through a window, an emotionless stare. Time passes as the Mundaka cruises the spaceway. Soon enough, it finds itself boarding the nearest Jagda Ja atoll. Inside, the trio was surrounded by other Yacha. A conversation between Natalie and the female takes place, as the Guardian is telling of past tales to others nearby. It seems the female became clan leader a few decades ago after she, the Guardian, and another Yacha cleared out a nest of 303 xenomorph aliens. A most worthy adversary. The female led the 3, but only she and the Guardian made it back from the hive. The 3rd member was torn to shreds by a swarm of those drone aliens. After the fight had seemingly been won, it was the last few that surprised them at the last moment. Still, the honorable death he got was something to be celebrated. Upon the Guardian, who's now telling Natalie's tale, this strikes a certain interest by the listeners. Then one signals one from its clan to join them. It's a man in Yacha garb. He steps away from one crowd to his clan leader. Then he's directed to Natalie. The only 2 humans in a figurative sea of aliens have found each other. But by rule of minority's sake, these 2 were in fact the aliens. His name was Alan Dutch Schaefer. Once Natalie's story was told to him by her in the Yacha tongue, Dutch made the decision to speak in English, for he hadn't in so long. His story began in the Republic of Valverde. His private military team was hunted by an experienced Yacha, hunted and killed until only Dutch was left. After a final brutal confrontation, Dutch had won, and the Predator set his self-destruct device. Dutch was meant to die, even after his victory. But he didn't. He survived. He was picked up by helicopter and reunited with a former guerrilla member, Ana Gonzalez. The Predators followed and honored him in his victory. He soon joined them, leaving Ana behind. Page 6. Natalie asks why he left Ana so readily. Dutch responds, the reason being that Ana was suffering from reasonably harsh shock from her encounter with the alien, and was almost immediately left borderline catatonic, whereas Dutch was far more mentally prepared due to being tortured in a wartime past. To such extent, he was left highly resistant to physical pain and horrifying trials. Still, the encounter with the Yacha took its toll. He came to the conclusion that joining them would serve better than any therapy would. Natalie then sought strength of her own, in a further question regarding why Dutch could leave his human world behind. His reason would surely enforce her own, and it did. Dutch's family was his team. Mac, Blaine, Billy, Poncho, and Hawkins, as well as General Phillips. Thinking back on another friendship fondly, even Dylan was his family. With the exception of the General, all were dead. With his family dead, it was so convenient to turn his back on Earth. Perfect timing that has served them well since 1987. The year was now 2015. Natalie continued, stating her age of 25 before complimenting Dutch's age of 68. He looked no older than 40 or so. Then Dutch told her of the Yacha's blood. Because they lived many hundred years longer, humans could too with their blood. Break time was over. It was time to return home. Dutch spoke with his clan leader, insisting he join Natalie's clan temporarily. His clan of 8 was willing, for human counterparts were a rarity. Those chosen sometimes didn't last long. Dutch was a rarity within a rarity. Natalie, of course, could use his help, and she would need it if she were to become a rarity within a rarity. Dutch said his goodbyes, and they promised to see him again soon, maybe a combining of clans in the future. Off the Jagda Atoll and onto the Mundaka. But then a bad blood suicide bomber arms his self-destruct device. As the Mundaka departs, the Jagda Atoll is demolished from within. This does not go unnoticed. Piloting the Mundaka is the female predator and the Guardian. She pulls up the holographic screen, the distress signal and recording. The 4 see the damage as it's rewound. Dutch immediately is struck with shock, a complete freeze of inner and outer self. This was a travesty. On their way back, Dutch and Natalie are seated in the passenger room, the very same Natalie first rested in. By the window, Dutch is looking out the window in absolute horror. But he keeps the tears inside, for he is who he is. There was no honor to be had in that sudden attack. This was a war between all the honored Yacha and the naturally despised Bad Blood. Back in the pilot's den, the female and the Guardian discussed the possibility that the Bad Bloods could have pursued them. Of course, they would probably never know for sure. Back in the passenger's den, Dutch would ordinarily sit in sorrow, silently under such despair. But Natalie was there. And because their kind were so rare among the Yacha, it was easy to fall in love. And they did. And they made love instead of more talk. Page 7. Time passes. The Mundaka now arrives on the very same planet it once left. Atop the pyramid it lands. The 4 get out and are greeted to 2 Yacha males, the very 2 that accompanied the Guardian to Earth before collecting Natalie. Just outside the pyramid, it seems they've been busy, hunting creatures and turning their decapitated heads into trophy skulls. The 2 Yacha and 2 humans congratulate them. Inside the pyramid, Natalie leads Dutch past Bale's old room. Now to hers. The door closes behind them, and they're right back to having sex. Outside the pyramid, the Guardian is telling the other 2 all about the trip. The 2 are very engaged by it, almost in disbelief, but not actually. One appears to have more to say, as if the story was the most amazing thing he's ever heard, obviously more excitable. Inside the pyramid, Dutch and Natalie rest under cover on the bed, staring up at the ceiling. It's a comfy little room, just big enough for them. In the hall, a bit later, the 2 leave together, back in their hunter's garb. Down the hall, hand in hand. In the trophy room, all 6 of them are gathered in comparing trophies. All but Dutch, of course, who would have to return to his clan's home, and soon to collect his trophies and bring the bad news to those surely curious. Then the female leader of the bunch starts talking up an angry storm, as if riled by the past in an instant thought. The Bad Bloods took a big hit before they last left this planet, thanks to the attack she ordered and carried out with a lot of them. But another would now have to be set in motion. This time the entire planet would be combed, and all honorable Yacha they encounter would join them graciously, to weed out and destroy the Bad Blood element off the face of this planet once and for all. Night has fallen. The female and her clan are prepping themselves, arming themselves, and finally cloaking themselves, Dutch and Natalie behind biomasks as well. Then, as if a nightmare had come true, a roaming gang of Bad Bloods stormed the pyramid fortress. The clicking alarm sounded, the clan alerted. In a nearby hall, one Bad Blood is coming down with a combat stick in hands. Around the corner comes one of the 2 other Yacha with his own combat stick. They connect again and again as the Bad Blood is pushed back and howling in frustration. His combat stick is soon shattered, and the other's combat stick impaled the Bad Blood under the chin and out of the top of the head, sticking in the ceiling. This victorious Yacha laughs it up before being blasted to death by a plasma caster from behind by another Bad Blood. Down another hall within the pyramid, the other Yacha is assaulted by a Bad Blood's net gun. But this Yacha pulls up his wrist blades and cuts the net apart before it surrounds him. The Bad Blood's wrist blades shoot out, as if he's going to strike this way, until a blast from his plasma caster comes out. But the Honorable Yacha ducks in time, and fires back with his own plasma caster. This Bad Blood is shot back and fired upon once more. He's dead before he hits the ground. Yacha then turns to another Bad Blood, stabbing him to death with the wrist blades. Page 8. In the trophy room once more, the Guardian pulls a smart disc, for if the Bad Blood wants to fight dirty, he can too. For this was no hunt, this was clearly war. Two Bad Bloods enter. A plasma shot from Plasma Caster comes flying towards the Guardian, who leaps out of the way before throwing his smart disc, and the disc immediately lops one of their heads off, before circling back and cutting through the other's back and chest. It returns to the Guardian, who laughs loudly victoriously. In the above chamber, the female is connecting wrist blades to wrist blades with yet another Bad Blood. She's cut in the leg, but she returns with a slicing slap across its now destroyed mouth and mandibles. It screams, and she has no mercy. She picks him up and breaks his back overhead until he's dead. Then she drops his sorry carcass. Outside the pyramid, Dutch and Natalie aim their plasma pistols in all directions. 2 by Dutch are killed, and 2 by Natalie in the opposite direction are 2. Then another hops down from its pyramid perch. Natalie's tackled to the ground. Her face is slammed into the ground by the angry Bad Blood. Dutch rips him off of her and throws him back into the pyramid face. Dutch aims and fires, and this one leaps out of the way. The blast has become useless, but as the Bad Blood drops, Dutch rolls out of the way. He pulls a remote bomb and chucks it right at the bastard. It impacts and blows him to smithereens. Now Dutch helps Natalie to her feet, incorrectly recalling her last name. Valeria, he states. She shakes her head in disapproval. Victoria, she replies. Then they lean in and kiss passionately. Atop the pyramid now, Dutch and Natalie are racing up the face of it, to the Guardian and the leader female who fend off the last of the Bad Blood gang. One is armed with a spear gun and shoots the Guardian in the right shoulder. A slight scream of pain, but the pain soon passes. The spear gun, Bad Blood, leaps from below them to the high above them. He lands between them as the female rips the arms off another screaming Bad Blood and kicks him right off the pyramid. The Guardian takes hold of this Bad Blood landing and drives him down to the hard surface at their feet. His head is cracked horrifically. Then the Guardian stomps a big hole through this one's torso. Instant death. Now the 4 survivors stand back to back with one another near their ship. They survey the area before removing their biomasks. This assault has left 2 of their group dead, but the threat has been dealt with. The next morning comes. The 4 awaken, Dutch and Natalie in their room below, the female and the Guardian in their room above. They gather just outside the pyramid. They're having a nice breakfast of some kind of alien meat, with some kind of alien drink. This time not water, but their own luminescent green blood. In honor of Natalie's victories, she's truly earned their respect on a level worthy enough for extended life, and she now has it, with the Yacha blood in her veins. Predator 3, Part 2, Brandon O'Keefe, August 19th, 2015. The end. Thank God. Killer Klowns vs. Predator. Brandon O'Keefe, August 21st, 2015. Page 1. The Circus Tent spaceship is flying away from planet Earth. The year is 2003, and the alien race of clowns have just ended their latest invasion with great success. They're returning to their home planet. Inside the ship, clowns are having a party. One on a unicycle, riding about, another on a pogo stick. Others are laughing while a pair of female clowns cartwheel and do extraordinary flips in the air. In the feeding room, a clown has just finished drinking his fill from a hanging cotton candy sack encasing a preserved human carcass. The clown, with his crazy straw, heads for the elevator and leaves, but not before a belch. A stowaway Yacha hunter uncloaks, a blood-red biomask over his face. The predator starts inspecting the cotton candy cocoons. His party of 4, including himself, were unprepared for the seemingly invincible clowns. His party were hunting in the city known to humans as Los Angeles, California. Everything was going fine until the clowns arrived. For 2 days, the Yacha watched them play with their food before either cocooning them by a gun or killing them. One of Red Mask's party had struck one of the clowns with his wrist blades, but it was to no avail. There wasn't even a piercing, and the attack only left the clown laughing at him. The Yacha's head was smashed like a pumpkin between the clown's palms. Then the other two in the party were uncovered. One struck this killer with a plasma blast from its shoulder-mounted plasma caster. The clown was simply knocked over, but otherwise uninjured. The clown spun around with a laugh. Then Red Mask's other two party members were shot by the balloon gun from behind by two clowns that had gone unnoticed. This was why Red Mask had been keeping his distance. Other humans had shot at the clowns to no effect at all. Red Mask was aboard to free the two Yacha clan members that had survived. He stepped away from the cotton candy cocoons to the giant colorful balloons. His wrist blades shot out, and he popped one. Out fell Mike Harrigan. Red Mask recognized him from another Yacha's honorable hunt 6 years prior, 1997. Harrigan had successfully killed the young blood, who was on the hunt in Los Angeles to gain blooded status. Harrigan looked up in shock at the predator that just freed him. This was one of the two strange encounters he had in his lifetime, and this time was proving to be much weirder. Red Mask walked away and popped another balloon with his wrist blades. Out fell one of the Yacha he was looking for. Red Mask helped him up. Then he walked over to another balloon and jabbed it. It popped, and the other Yacha fell out. Red Mask helped him up too. Harrigan gripped his hand. Page 2. The three Yachas stayed cloaked while Harrigan was left on his own. It didn't seem like the hunters were going to be hunting him this time, and he'd seen before that these aliens were honorable. The 1715 Spanish-made flintlock pistol he acquired from one of their kind back in 1997 was proof of that. It was behind a glass case in his home office, hanging on a wall. What a treasure, Mike. Harrigan, or the predators, saw another clown enter the feeding room. Clearly, they would strike once the ship arrived at its destination. And it did soon enough. The planet was brightly lit, with miniature tents as homes for various clowns, giant balloon trees towering over and between other wild structures. Towers of steel with monstrous red-nosed faces. A wild, nightmarish roller coaster dipped and circled this patch of landscape, and mountains of hardened ice cream and cherries enclosed the whole area like an enormous wall. A little later, the clowns aboard the ship departed. They happily joined others awaiting them, cocoons for feeding, and balloon prisoners for taunting and playing with before killing. Harrigan escaped quickly and managed to stay out of sight by dashing down a wide alleyway. He was crushing slightly mobile popcorn under his feet, still grasping his handgun. He wasn't so far from retirement back on Earth, and was certainly getting too old for this shit. The Yacha 3 followed the party of clowns to an arena nearby. The clowns seemed upset that 3 balloons had popped before arrival. It wasn't long before they popped the remaining 4 balloons. 2 young men and 2 young women fell out with grunts of pain. They got up and clung together as the clowns surrounding them backed off. One of the women was fighting back a heart attack. Then bouncing colorful steel balls were pounding the popcorn-littered ground. The 4 ran to hide. Inside the balls were clowns behind operating counters. Outside, the human party of 4 hid behind the walls of spirals and stripes. It was a sort of maze. One of the young men tripped, and he was crushed by one of the balls. But not just once. The clown inside had quite a laugh, bouncing repeatedly upon his bruised, battered, and ultimately smashed corpse. One of the young women screamed. Then another bouncy ball came down upon her. She was treated by the same wicked routine. The remaining men and women took each other by the hand. The man was guiding the women through the maze of brightly colored walls. The sounds of the bouncing balls were heard growing more and more louder. There was an exit. The man and the women rushed to it. The man opened the door, but another smaller door was there. This door was open, but another smaller door just the same. Such bullshit this was. Then the balls flew. Page 3. The Yacha 3 scrambled outside the arena entry exit. 3 clowns were just walking by, sipping from lava lamp-style cups. One of the predators took a step out and uncloaked. It threw its compass stick, in hopes of impaling one of them. It did not. The clown picked it up and threw it right back, impaling the predator. Then the three clowns ran up and started kicking the hunters to the ground, stopping it horrifically, and the Yacha screamed in defeat. Red Mask and the other watched as the clowns dragged the unconscious and beaten Yacha's body away into a tent of storage. This is where they kept their guns, both cocoon and balloon guns, as well as popcorn cannons. Inside the store, the two cloaked predators entered. They move among the clowns silently, in observation. The beaten and unconscious predator is pulled into an elevator, which descends to a lower level. Red Mask stabs at the clown's backside, testing its exterior. He stabs a lot harder the second time. The clown spins around and looks from right to left. He picks up a popcorn cannon and fires at the clown across the way, with his back to him. This clown spins around angrily and gives him a mouthful. The cannon clown explains just as angrily that he does not appreciate being poked. The other clown insists he didn't. The cannon clown doesn't believe him. Now the popcorn-covered clown heads for the bathroom to clean it up. Inside the bathroom, and before a funhouse mirror, the clown is washing off the popcorn with a faucet hose, which sprays wildly, and must be focused craftily upon the mess. Suddenly, a floating balloon gun is directly behind the clown. In the mirror, the clown spots it. He turns and looks at it with a cock of his head, right to left. He pokes at it, then the gun fires. Outside the bathroom, the cloaked predators move the balloon along. The cannon fixer clown turns back to see the balloon floating there. A moment's pause as the balloon stops moving. The cannon fixer laughs it off. He returns to his table of guns, and the predators continue moving the balloon out of the store. Harrigan is moving along, then squints at the balloon which is moving up the mountain of ice cream. He peers closer, seeing the two cloaked Yacha. Harrigan watches from afar as the balloon is popped. The clown drops out. The Yacha immediately netgun the poor son of a bitch. It tightens as the two watch closely. Then they notice the nose being popped by the hard wire net. It screams, now spinning about in a flash of light within the net before exploding. A whistling sound. The Yacha turn to a clown sneaking up behind them. Red Mask pulls up a spear gun and shoots. The spears hit the clown's nose, and the clown is spinning in light before exploding. Now the Yacha turn to Harrigan, opening fire. The Yacha watches a second creeping clown is hit in the nose. It too spins about and explodes. Harrigan approaches the Yacha, unafraid. Page 4. Harrigan explains to the predators that it'll help them fight the clowns if they'll get him back to his own planet. He puts out his open right hand and hopes they understand. The predators, having had many encounters with the human race, each nod. Red Mask puts his hand out and shakes Harrigan's. Moments later, Harrigan quietly enters the gun store. He aims his gun at the cannon fixer clown. He whistles for its attention. But then a little clown runs up. Harrigan turns with a gasp and widened eyes. Harrigan's kicked in the balls. He lets out a scream. The cannon fixer picks up the popcorn cannon. He aims it at Harrigan, but then a plasma shot from the side blasts the clown in the face. Its nose pops. Red Mask and the other predator uncloak and watch as it spins around and explodes in a flash of light. Harrigan shoves the little clown back and pistol smacks his nose so it pops, and it does. It too meets the same fate as the other previous clowns had. Harrigan stands up, sighing. In the elevator now, the two Yacha and Harrigan too. They descend to a cavern space. A dead snake monster rots there as they step out. The three move around it and around the corner to see a band of clown aliens having dressed their prisoner Yacha up in clown attire, and it's strapped to a puppet master's wire suit. Female clowns stand by as a male clown cracks his knuckles. A puppet master he is. Red Mask and the other Yacha and Harrigan all watch as the clown Yacha walks along with its limbs whipping up and down wildly. The clown Yacha is annoyed and embarrassed by this. Harrigan watches Red Mask and the other Yacha watch the clown Yacha being disrespected by the laughing clowns. A look of sadness across Harrigan's face. Red Mask sends a plasma shot from his plasma caster. The puppet master clown is hit in the face, and his nose pops naturally. And like the rest, he's killed in a flash of light. Another clown comes running out with a cocoon gun. He looks around for the attacker. Just as he sees them, however, he's shot in the nose by Harrigan. Now the females start cartwheeling their way as the Red Mask's trio rush to the clown puppet Yacha. The other predator swipes with his wrist blades, cutting the females' red noses right off. They scream and spin and burn away in their own flashes of light. Red Mask cuts the clown puppet predator off its wires. The four now head back the way they came. Another clown gets in their way with a giant hammer. It smacks Harrigan away with ease. Then it smashes the other predator into a pie form. It laughs with its razor-sharp teeth showing. The clown puppet predator tackles this clown and bites into its nose. The clown throws the clown puppet predator aside and spins and screams and dies. Harrigan and the clown puppet predator each get to their feet. They watch as Red Mask looks down at the dead pie predator. Could it be an honorable death? Yes, indeed it was, from such a strange and deadly prey. Page 5. Red Mask, the clown puppet predator, and Harrigan exit the gun store. They find the clowns waiting for them. Shit, Harrigan says. Red Mask blasts one, then two of the clowns with his plasma caster. They die instantly, but then another chucks an acid balloon at him. The plasma caster is struck and it melts. Red Mask rips it off his shoulder, dropping it. Harrigan aims and fires. The balloon tosser is hit dead in the nose. Then he aims his pistol again and fires at a clown charging with a deadly pie of some kind. This one is shot and killed, but now Harrigan is out of bullets. He drops his gun. The clown puppet predator picks up and throws Harrigan to safety. Upon the rails of the roller coaster, the Yacha too leap up to safety themselves now. As the roller coaster carts come riding by quickly, Harrigan and the two Yacha hop aboard. A moment in pause as they hang on, surviving a loop-de-loop. The carts now race on. Suddenly, here comes a clown on a pogo stick. He hops from the back of the cart to the next one on line. He laughs. The clown puppet predator leaps into action, with his arms spread out in a furious anger. This clown has knocked off its pogo stick. The clown is then palmed in the nose. As it dies, the clown puppet picks up the pogo stick. More clowns are seen dropping down from the cotton candy storm clouds above. Blood rain falls upon them all now. Red Mask's wrist blades shoot out. He jabs at an approaching clown, right in the nose. It dies. Another turn of the track, and all those aboard hang tight. It dips down, and two of the clowns on it lose their grip. They fall below and out of sight. Harrigan is knocked upside the head by a clown wearing boxing gloves. Red Mask turns and is slugged in the gut. The clown uppercuts Red Mask off the roller coaster. The clown puppet predator charges. The clown turns and swings, missing. But then another clown grabs hold of the clown puppet Yacha as the boxer clown smiles. Harrigan is recovering, only to be kicked out of the cart. The clowns are laughing as the clown puppet Yacha is punched in the torso repeatedly by the boxer clown. The clown puppet predator spitting up his luminescent clean blood. Through another loop-de-loop, a double loop-de-loop. The boxer clown holds on, while the clown holding the clown puppet predator is thrown off by gravity. A rainbow lightning bolt strikes down. Both this clown and the clown puppet predator are struck and killed by it in air. The boxer clown jogs in place, holding his arms up in victory as the blood rain falls. He doesn't take notice of Harrigan hanging on the side of the cart, now climbing up behind him. Covered in blood himself, Harrigan taps on the boxer clown's right shoulder. The clown turns around and is punched right in the nose. "Fuck you!" Harrigan states, as the clown spins around in a flash of light before dying. Page 6. A little later, Mike Harrigan is stumbling through sprinkling blood rain. The storm has died down completely. The blood rain has ceased. Harrigan heads around a corner to see the thing that puts a smile on his face, the circus tent spaceship he rode in on. In other words, his means of escape. Red Mask uncloaks in front of him. "You made it," Harrigan states. The two nod at one another, then proceed towards the ship. But then clowns start coming out of all corners, and soon the pair find themselves surrounded. They are about ready to kill the two when a horn blast is heard. The clowns back away as Red Mask and Harrigan look all about in confusion. Then in the distance is a giant clown winding a giant jack-in-the-box. Clownzilla keeps winding, while Red Mask and Harrigan look on in horror. Out of the box comes a clown dressed Xenomorph Queen. She screeches as Clownzilla hops on its backside and rides it right towards Red Mask and Harrigan. The Queen is being forced into movement by the glowing chain that's attached to its neck, arms, and legs, its tail whipping and stabbing at Clownzilla's backside. This doesn't do anything but cause Clownzilla to laugh it up. Away from the circus tent entry and up the ice cream mountain, Red Mask and Harrigan are climbing around but staying close to the spaceship. Clowns accidentally get in the way of Clownzilla and the Xenomorph Queen. The Queen rips into these clowns, sending them soaring into structures and many tent homes. Up the ice cream mountain, Clownzilla and the Alien Queen charge. Red Mask is behind a balloon tree. He throws a smart disc, intending to hit the giant clown's giant red nose, but the Queen's right arm is lopped off instead, and it screams as the acid blood sprays. The smart disc is returning now. Red Mask takes it and dives out of the way of the Queen's tail coming striking down his way. The balloon tree is popped. Harrigan jumps on an observant clown's backside. He slams his nose into a giant cherry. Harrigan picks up a cocoon gun as his clown dies in its exploding light. Red Mask is seen leaping out of the Alien Queen's way, its remaining arm and claw striking down. Red Mask has quick and high jumps. He evades not only with the one claw, but the long tail that stabs at the ice cream ground. Red Mask is now batted away, far away from the mountain face, and into a giant cherry. Harrigan helps him out and hands him the cocoon gun. As Clownzilla upon the Alien Queen charge once more, Red Mask aims the cocoon gun and fires. Clownzilla jumps off in time as the Queen is suddenly encased in an enormous cocoon of cotton candy. Red Mask leaps on ahead, chasing after the evading Clownzilla, who knows exactly what will happen if he stands his ground. Harrigan follows. Page 7. Red Mask and Harrigan are just about to enter the spaceship, only to find it locked up. The clowns clearly don't want them to leave. Harrigan lets out a number of curses. Red Mask lets out some of his own. The clowns are now beginning to creep up closer to them. Red Mask runs off with Harrigan following behind. Moments later, Red Mask and Harrigan break into the mini-tent home of a clown family. One dad, one mom, one son, and one daughter. The dad and mom pull out a popcorn cannon each. The dad shoots the predator, while the mom shoots Harrigan. Outside, the clown gang are still in search. One holds up a radar device because of the tracking popcorn. Now the clowns know where their targets are hiding, and they rush that way. Back in the house, Harrigan punches the mommy clown in the nose, while Red Mask uppercuts the dad clown with his wrist blades. Both spin and shine and die out. Red Mask looks over the cowering children behind the balloon couch. He doesn't seem willing to kill them, but perhaps they would serve as living trophies, for there never was anything left of the others. Only the recording the Biomask had made. Other Yachtja were surely reviewing this hunt by now, somewhere far away in the galaxy. Harrigan peeks out of the window. He sees Clownzilla and the rest of the clowns advancing. He whistles for Red Mask's attention. Red Mask rushes over and looks out the window. It's too late to do anything. Now the son and daughter clowns come up from behind them with pies. They are chucked at Red Mask and Harrigan, and they begin to melt slowly. Red Mask has had enough, and he arms his detonation device. Clownzilla and the other clowns watch as the children jump for joy at what they've done. They all begin to laugh at his Harrigan in dying pains and screaming, looks to Red Mask, giving him an thumbs up. Harrigan in return gives a thumbs up too. "Fuck yourselves!" Harrigan demands as Red Mask's timer counts down to its end. Clownzilla stands back, not knowing what to expect as the other clowns creep closer, not quite as afraid of what's about to happen. Then it does happen. The entire area is engulfed in the explosion. Clowns in the fire are seen having their noses blown off. We witness them dying, as well as the two prick alien clown children, as well as Red Mask and Mike Harrigan. The roller coaster breaks apart, and the circus tent spaceship burns down, too. It's all over, and we fade to black. Killer Clowns vs. Predator. Brandon O'Keefe, August 21st, 2015. The end.